What is up, guys? Welcome on back to TK's Garage. And in today's video, I want to talk about the EPA fining shops, distributors, manufacturers of emission defeat devices, and how that has now come to an end. So I saw some videos here the last couple of days where basically, there's a big aftermarket part supplier called Turn 14, and they were fined $3.6 million. Now, I don't know if Turn 14 already has their attorneys doing this or getting on top of it, or other people that have been fined in the past. But the EPA Administrator did say, it was Buck, is it Clay, Buck Travis or whatever? Some of the people that took over a radio show for Rush Limbaugh got to speak with the EPA Administrator, as well as a local radio host in Texas. And both asked the same question when it came to this, and it was mostly centered around diesel, not even gasoline. And Turn 14 has a lot of stuff that comes with, like high flow cats, things of that nature, right? A lot of like BMW stuff, right? And I mean, not just BMW stuff, but other aftermarket parts, okay? Things that would be considered defeat devices for emission systems. And Lee Zeldin said something that was shocking in terms of basically saying that illegal or unconstitutional activities that were done by the EPA will not be contested. What that means is, if you'd been fined, like, I forget what the other company was that did the Subaru stuff, but they got fined a few $1,000,000. This one's $3.6 million. I've seen some individual YouTube channels that have diesel shops that were doing like diesel deletes, where they had got fined hundreds of thousands of dollars, had to go through bankruptcy. You will now have an avenue to be able to get some, if not all, of that money back, because we have common sense people now that are in charge at EPA, at NHTSA, at DOT, in the White House, in Congress, in the Senate, that will allow you guys to be able to do this. Now, I've had a lot of people asking me. I've got over 40 emails from shops that were like, I got fined by the EPA, what should I do? I also got reached out by 3 different law firms asking me to promote their law firms so that people could use these law firms to get their money back from the EPA for these unconstitutional fines that they got slapped with in the past. Now, from my understanding of what I've heard is, yes, there is a time limit to how far back that they're willing to go to, get people back money or try to make them whole for people that were fined. Those other people might have to actually sue, meaning create a cause of action, get an attorney that's willing to do it on, a contingency basis, on if you win, they get a percentage type of deal. And then basically sue the EPA to get your money back. But I am very happy with what I'm seeing out of the EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin, at least using common sense here to allow people that have been hit with unconstitutional actions by that administration for millions of dollars to have a possibility or have a chance, to submit to try to get their money back. And, we need more common sense like this. With the end, basically, of CAFE standards, emissions being rolled back, and the administrator of the EPA firing over 1,000 enforcement agents, the cases like this, where we see for Turn 14 getting fined $3.6 million. And cases like this in the future are going to become much more few and far between, because they're more focused on unleashing American energy, making cars cost a lot less money by not having to have all of this insane emissions equipment on it. Now, I've already seen the comments, and I've seen them over the last few videos I've done on emission stuff here on, oh, well, the next time a different administration with a different point of view comes in, they'll change it all. Not true. I'm just going to say this again. Like, I know people have common sense, and sometimes, you know, sometimes people are dumb. I understand that. And I need you guys to understand two things. So I don't want to say attack, but the method that has been put forward towards these emission standards and everything else has been a multi-pronged system, right? One, the EPA Administrator coming in and immediately getting rid of all those enforcement agents, cutting all of the money that they were spending, clawing back billions that they were going to try to use from NGOs and other stuff to try to come after the EPA with the EPA's money, make that make sense. So he's clawing that $20 billion back. Agreeing with the Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy, as he's basically got completely rid of the CAFE standards. They are gone, okay? And agreeing with the Department of Justice, the EPA, and the DOT all agreeing and filing supportive briefs in a pending Supreme Court decision that will strip California from being able to set any emission standards. The Supreme Court decision that will end up coming down for California doesn't just make it where they can't set standards for everybody else in the country. It would literally strip them from the ability to set standards, period, that have to do whatever the federal government says. That also means no smog checks, none of this other crap. And before you get, oh, states' rights, let me be very clear here. Every single state that agreed to be a state also signed on to go by that Constitution. And the Constitution has this little thing in there called federal supremacy. And when it comes to something like that, that's standardized across all 50 states, whatever the federal government says goes. And the last thing is, after you see all the different things between EPA, DOJ, DOT, well, if they just change administration, there'll be all new secretaries and attorney generals and all this other crap. Yes, but no. And let me touch on that before we go. Legislation is already being proposed by multiple members of the House that will change the way that the Clean Air Act works and make it where manufacturers aren't stuck trying to make a diesel truck or a 1500 Ram per se get 45 miles per gallon. All right. It could get back to being common sense, which is like 10 in the city, 13 on the highway, right? Like common sense. And when that happens, let's say another way of thinking gets into office in 4 years, it will be so cost prohibitive for them to change it. Like gas prices will be way down at that point. In order for them to change it, you would see an overnight doubling of energy costs, right? You would see an overnight inflation of 8 to 15%. In order for the other party to come in and change the rules that are going to be proposed in legislation would be so cost prohibitive, it would be political unaliving, because I don't even think I can say the S word, right? It would be political unaliving. They would be done and would probably not come back into office. Like they would never be able to hold the presidency for like another 15 or 20 years because it would literally destroy people. Something to think about. But anyways, if you think, go to the EPA's website, epa.gov or whatever, and there's a couple of different things. Google is your friend. But I'm glad that the administrator is using common sense here and that in some of these interviews are at least talking about these people that got screwed by the prior administration getting some of their money back. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.